While most people don't know much about biker clubs, the Hells Angels are a mysterious group that is often misunderstood. Beyond their well-known history of rebellion and a closely guarded code of quiet, there is a set of rules that control how they act and what they do as a brotherhood. These rules, which are not open to the public, give us an interesting and sometimes shocking look into how this notorious group works. Here are 15 shocking rules that all Hells Angels must follow. Guys are one of the first things you need to do to join the club. This means that women aren't allowed to join as members. Still, this doesn't mean that women can't attend any of the club's events. Some women in the club, who are known as old ladies, hang out in the hall. This usually includes the wives or lovers of people who are in the club. The number 81 can even be sewn on their clothes. Because 8 and 1 are letters that stand for H and A, this is known as Support 81 or Route 81 in the club. They still can't go to talks at the clubhouse. You have to follow certain rules to become a Hells Angel. It's not open to women, but only guys can join. To become a Hells Angel, you have to follow some strict rules. This brings up another rule that everyone in Hells Angels has to follow. They need a motorbike and a valid driver's license. That being said, the Hells Angels don't let just any motorcycle join. Members can only ride bikes that were made in the United States. Well-known names like Harley-Davidson are especially welcome. Everyone has a soft spot for the Harley, both because it was made in the United States and because of its unique loud rumble. People in the Hells Angels motorcycle show are known to ride legal American brands like Indian and Victory. The third and most important rule is that you must get permission from all Hells Angels members before you can join. This is another strange rule that doesn't get around. It's possible that you shouldn't join the Hells Angels after all. A prospect is someone who is new to the club and wants to join. Right now, they need everyone in the club to vote. So, candidates have to go to each charter in the funding charter's state or region and formally introduce themselves to the club's full patch members. As long as it takes, which could be years, prospects will stay prospects. If they can't get the full vote of every full patch member, they will stay prospects. Another rule that everyone in Hells Angels has to follow is that they won't let anyone join who has abused children or tried to be a police officer or jail guard. The Hells Angels can't have anyone in their group who has already sworn loyalty to another cause or group. The club doesn't let police officers, jail guards, or people who have applied in any way into because of its code of silence. Some police departments have called the Hells Angels an organized crime group. Having a police officer as a patch-wearing member would mean that the police could look into the club's business, which is against the club's code of silence. It makes sense that you like bikes, or already have one if you want to join a motorbike club. Everyone who is a Hells Angel has to follow the 5th rule, which is shocking. The patch and vest that club members wear are seen as holy by the group. It's also called the full patch. The 4 pieces of gear are the Death Head logo, 2 rockers, and the MC patch below the Death's Head's wings. It looks like a square. Members must wear these patches whenever they are together, because the club has strict rules about what to wear. But keep in mind that unless you're a Hells Angel, this type of clothing is against the law and has a lot of brand names on it. People who have been in the club for a long time are the only ones who can wear these patches. Do not think that these patches will make you feel like you belong. Get rid of that thought right away. There are real members who will hurt you badly if they see you wearing these patches without permission. Another rule of the Hells Angels is that when a member leaves or dies, they must return their club patches to the club. This is how it works. The patches are owned by the Hells Angels Biker Club. People who quit the club badly might have to give up their patches and get rid of tattoos that show they are a member. It's possible that Jay, an ex-ATF agent named Anthony Jaybird, says that messing with a member's patch can make things worse. You can't touch a Hells Angel on the back or their patch. I did those things wrong, and they got me into trouble. Sometimes they even hit me. Jude Scher, an investigative writer, says that the Hells Angels vest is so holy that any damage done to it could be seen as a sin. Let's say a member goes to jail. They must give their coat to one of their brothers to take care of and not let a non-member touch it. John Jordan, a medical officer at the SMDC Health Systems Manager, says that everyone should learn how to help a Hells Angel in case of an accident or emergency. Cutting through a patch to get to an injury is against the rules. Also, when a Hells Angel leaves the club, this is a very important thing to remember. You have to give back all the gear and patches if you leave the Angels for any reason. Some sources say that another member also has surgery to remove their scars. This means that if you leave the Hells Angels, you have to cut all ties with the biker club, according to Jay Dobbins, who joined the Hells Angels and stayed there from 2001 to 2003. Prospects and totally patched couldn't talk to each other. This is a strict but necessary rule. There was a lot of talk about how you had to take off your sunglasses and look a Hells Angel in the eyes if you saw one. They thought this move was important because they wanted to see the eyes of the possibility. Also, Hells Angels made it clear that riders should take off their gloves before shaking hands with them. The Spy also told more about the notorious outlaw biker club and their strange but strict rules about having sexual relationships. Members were not allowed to have any kind of sexual interaction with other members' partners, wives, or friends. People often got into more and more fights when this rule was broken. The gang had an order, and old ladies who were married to or in love with gang members were not allowed to be with other gang members. Someone was strongly told that they would be heavily and violently punished if they were caught trying to do something wrong with a member's spouse or partner. People who are part of the Hells Angels must always watch out for each other. This is clear from the story of Joseph Lancier, who led the RHS Island Hells Angels group. He took a chance on getting a longer jail term to keep his Cadillac Lounge guests safe. People who are part of the Hells Angels are expected to stay together, even when things get rough. This is clear from the story of Meredith Curly Hunter Jr. He got stabbed after pulling out a gun at the 1969 Altamont Free concert to shoot bikers. These rules aren't just meant to keep us safe, though. In May 2019, a fight broke out between the Hells Angels and the Bandidos gang in Belp, which is southeast of Bern. The fight went to court. The fight started when the Bandidos tried to open a store in Switzerland. They thought this was an insult and attacked them. He had 6 guns, an assault rifle, knives, machetes, baseball bats, pepper spray, and tasers. The Swiss police had to step in and take them all. Many people were hurt in the fight, which is why the case went to court. 22 people from different gangs were also charged with being in the fight. The Hells Angels and the Bandidos had to get to Bern in time for the hearing by going from different parts of Switzerland and other countries. Even outside the building, the two gangs were still very angry with each other. There was a small fight outside where stones and bottles were thrown. The Swiss cops had to use water guns and rubber shots to stop the fight between the two groups. Another suspect got 42 years in jail for trying to badly hurt someone, and a third got 8 months for fighting. The trial showed that one of the suspects planned to kill someone. 19 bikers were also tried for fighting and helping the bad guys. Not all of them were found guilty, but some were, and were given 10-month jail terms that were later stopped. Swiss people paid a lot of attention to this fight, but there was something else interesting about it and the trial that followed. Hells Angels members wouldn't say anything about the fight during the meeting because they are known for having a strict rule of silence. It is very important to the club to protect its members, both past and present, and they only speak out when they have to. Nobody in the Hells Angels is allowed to talk to the public, which is another important rule that everyone has to follow. A lot of people know that it's very hard to join the Hells Angels biker club, mostly because they have a code of quiet. The secrets and safety of the club are kept safe by this rule. That's why members can't talk to the media about the club, because what they say could get out and be used against them. Most well-known Hells Angels member Sonny Barger says in his book that the group has secret rules and laws that will never be made public. It shouldn't have been a surprise that the Hells Angels didn't talk about the fight or explain what they did. Someone did the same thing at the Hells Angels annual summer meeting in Carlton, Minnesota, which had about 500 members. Reporters were always talking to the members, but they always turned their backs on them or cut them off quickly when they noticed who they were talking to. Because of this tight promise to keep things secret, there is another strange rule that all members must follow to the letter. The Hells Angels really dislike people who watch or tell on others. It's the most important thing and person they hate. To be more specific, this is the major reason police officers can't join the gang. Members will be punished severely if they betray the club or their brothers. Jay Dobbins, an ATF agent, joined the Hells Angels in secret as part of a plan called Operation Black Biscuit. In this case, it's very clear. It was almost 2 years that I worked as a spy for the Hells Angels. My name is Jay Dobbins, and I used to work for the government. People in the gang called me Jaybird, but as a secret spy, my name was Jay Davis. I told them I was a debt collector and a gun runner, which helped me join the Hells Angels Club in Mesa, Arizona. People in the gang were happy to see me because I had the right personality, attitude, and looks for the job. I faked the death of a member of the Mongols, a rival biker gang, to get them to trust me even more. I showed the Hells Angels pictures and videos of another police officer claiming to be a dead Mongol member who was buried in a poor grave and covered in lamb brains and blood. This made them happy. As a sign of my love, I even sent them a bloody Mongol patch. But the case was over in 2004, and everyone found out who I really was. Being honest about this betrayal was not easy for the Hells Angels, which was a bad thing. They believed in me and saw me as one of them. I began getting violence and death threats soon after I left the gang. Most of them were directed at my family. In the first case, the Hells Angels posted pictures of what they said were Arizona rats on their website. An email with a picture of Dobbins and the words, "Hope everything was okay," was one of these. But these texts and pictures had threats in them, so Dobbins and his family had to leave Arizona for a while. They had to move again in 2005 because Dobbins learned that the Hells Angels had agreed to kill him with the Aryan Brotherhood. He then had his home in Tucson burned down in the middle of the night in August 2008, after the ATF made the address public. The good news is that Dobbins' wife and kids were only slightly hurt from breathing in smoke. No matter what, the fire ruined their house and most of their things. Dobbins also said that the Hells Angels and their friends were going to give him an HIV shot, kill his wife and daughter, and take his wife and daughter. When asked about how violent Hells Angels members are, especially when they attack spies, Dobbins said that these threats were truly taken very seriously. The people in the outlaw biker gang may not have college degrees, but they know how to use fear and violence to get what they want. It's a big part of their dangerous way of life. Dobbins said that these people are very dangerous because they are men who live on the edge and are always surrounded by violence. It's not a surprise that this happened because Sonny Barger wrote in his book Hells Angels that the group doesn't like spies. Barger says that most spies are cocky jerks who like being in charge and acting tough. But when the total power of the club hits them, they quickly run away and swear to stay faithful. Barger also said that if these people were in trouble, they wouldn't think twice about breaking their promises of loyalty. Outside of the Hells Angels motorcycle club, it's common for people to leave their brothers to stay safe. According to the club's code of honor, Rat is the worst enemy because they are not loyal and work together. People who are part of the Hells Angels can't be a part of any other riding groups. Everyone in the group has to follow this rule. If someone joins the Hells Angels, they can't help any other group. The Hells Angels are known for always fighting with other biker groups, even though they are sometimes called a social group. We feel bad that we have become the people we used to fight. This idea was brought up in a meeting that I left early from. We used to work with other clubs along the coast, but by 2011, We were in fights with the cops and every big criminal bike club in the US. And some people lost sight of why they were living an illegal life in the first place at this point. A fight broke out between two groups, making it look like a military task. George Christie, who used to be the leader of the Hells Angels, said those exact words. After 40 years, he had to leave the club because it was getting more dangerous. It's easy to understand why the Hells Angels make it so hard for their members to join other biker gangs. They have a history of fighting with the Mongols, the Bandidos, and almost every other biker gang. The American Motorcyclist Association won't let the Hells Angels join because of this very strict rule. If you thought these were the only rules, get ready for more. 49. People who are accused of being part of a criminal gang with ties to the Hells Angels went on trial at Spain's top court on Monday. The last time cops cracked down on the group was on the holiday island of Menorca on July 23, 2013. After almost 10 years, this important event took place, and that's when Frank Hainbooth was caught. It was well known that he was a Hells Angel and led the MCA group. He was accused, along with other people, of running a crime ring that did illegal drug deals, prostitution, and money laundering. Frank Armin Hainbooth was a famous German boxer and criminal biker who was seen as the leader of the Hells Angels in Europe. Hainbooth was in charge of the largest and most important handover order in Germany. It was for the Hells Angels. Hainbooth went to MCA in Spain after police searched his home because they thought he had hired several people to kill people. He became the leader of the local Hells Angels group and didn't get into any trouble until 2013. When he was caught, he was accused of using prostitution to make money and making women work in Hells Angels homes. If he is found guilty, he could spend a lot of time in jail. German Frank Hainbooth used to be the leader of the Hells Angels. The government wants him to go to jail for up to 13 years and pay a $4.56 million fine. Police thought the Hells Angels had a bad reputation before Hainbooth joined drug trafficking. This made it even worse. The fact that he was arrested and is being tried also breaks a holy rule that everyone in the group must follow. For people who look tough, the Hells Angels Biker Club may come as a surprise that they don't let their members use IV drugs. The club puts a lot of value on loyalty because they think that drug addiction can make it hard for members to put the club first. Member can smoke weed or cigarettes and drink, but they can't add drugs to their drinks or use hard drugs. Keep in mind that not all Hells Angels use drugs. In fact, a lot of them put their health and exercise first. Even though they have a bad name, the club really does care about following the rules. As a result, another important Hells Angels rule says that all members must always show up to club events and meetings. Becoming a member of the Hells Angels takes years of hard work and is a strong way to show your support for the club. One of the best ways to show this loyalty is to always show up to meetings and answer calls right away. Everyone in the club is expected to show up to every meeting, which is sometimes called church or the clubhouse. In the same way, they can't miss club events because that would show a lack of commitment and respect. The Hells Angels Club puts a lot of value on their meetings because, according to their code of silence, everything said in the clubhouse is kept secret. Members are also expected to go to church every week and take part in group processions and other events connected to the club. Because they are so dedicated to the club, many Hells Angels have trouble keeping full-time jobs because they are always on the road. Because the club comes first, having a full-time job can make a member less committed. Members who don't show up to a clubhouse meeting for a good reason will have to pay a fine of $150 to $100. The way they work together as a group is another example of this focus. One important rule of the Hells Angels Biker Club is that you must always ride in order. Not only does this rule show the club's order, it also makes sure that it is always followed. This group of Hells Angels is led by a president, vice president, secretary or manager, sergeant at arms, and road captain. Because of this, the leader or president of a charter is always at the front of any parade, even if it puts him in the most danger. The vice president, the road captain, and the sergeant-at-arms are in line after the president. Basically, this means that a Hells Angels member can't leave the club, not even after they die. The process of entering the Hells Angels can be very difficult, but this is on purpose so that the club can find the most dedicated people.